So before I actually make a laser, I want to demonstrate how keyframes work. This will probably be easier to understand for people who have actually worked with animation programs before. I will start by taking my object and changing the time of death offset to 2 so you can actually see it. And I know that new users will probably have no idea what I just said. I assure you I will explain how this works in the video. So this area down here is mainly what we will be working with. These are the keyframe timelines. These timelines control the 4 different properties of an object over time: position, scale, rotation, and color. Each of these timelines already has a keyframe in them way to the left, which is going to be how this particular object starts off. Right now, it will start in the position 0, 0 in the middle of the screen, as you can see. It will have a scale of 2, 2 units long and 2 units wide. It will not have any specific rotation, and it is red. So just as a demonstration for how keyframes work, I will make this red square move from one position to another. Since the first position keyframe has the coordinates of 0, 0, it'll start in the very center of the screen. To make a new keyframe in the position timeline, all I have to do is right-click that timeline. If there's a specific time you want your keyframe to be on, you can type in a time in this box. If I want this transition to be 2 seconds long, all I have to do is type in 2 here. Now I am going to change this keyframe's position to 5, 3. Meaning that the square will move 5 units to the right and 3 units up. If you don't want to type in numbers or use the arrows because that takes too long, you can just use the scroll wheel on your mouse to change the numbers. So now, if I play this, the square moves from 0, 0 to 5, 3. The further away your keyframe is, the more time the trip is going to take. You can drag the keyframe with your mouse. Now, as you can see, the object is still remaining on the screen for a few seconds. If you want the object to disappear immediately after the last keyframe, you set the time of death setting to last KF. The last KF offset thing that I was just in meant that the object would disappear 2 seconds after the last keyframe, but now it'll disappear immediately after the very last keyframe. Now if you go up here, there is a drop-down menu full of ease types. These are very important. These are a key factor in making your level actually look good, using the right transitions in your animations. For instance, in sign will cause the object to start slow, but then speed up towards the end. Out sign will make the object start speedy, but then slow down at the end. And in out sign is a combination of both. You're going to want to play around with the ease types to get a feel for what each of them do, because I am not making a separate video about it. Anyway, let's start making a laser. I will delete this keyframe for now, and I will delete this default object. So first I'm going to call this object the laser helper, and then set its type to a helper. So I'm going to make this object look exactly like the laser that's going to appear. I'm going to click the very first keyframe in the scale timeline, which I'm already on. The default scale is 2 units long and 2 units wide. I want it to be 2 units wide and 60 units long, so it's a very long helper. Then I'm going to add another keyframe in the scale timeline, just so the object does not disappear as soon as it appears. And if your object isn't showing up, like right now, just move the keyframe a little bit. I'm actually on my 4th take with this shot because my object wasn't showing up and I couldn't figure out why until now. So when I play the song, it looks like this. So that animation, the helper appeared, but it looked sloppy, right? I don't want the helper to just appear on the screen with no transition. So I'm going to fix that right now. As you can see, I've already added a keyframe into the scale timeline. What I want to happen is for the helper to grow from not being visible at all to this. So I'm going to click the first keyframe on the scale timeline and set its starting scale to 060. This way, the helper should grow from 060 to 260. I am also going to click the second keyframe and use the out sign transition. So let's try playing this again. So now we have the helper down, but what about the actual laser? The good news is we have something to work off of. So let's go ahead and copy this object. To copy objects, just click an object and do Control-C. Then just Control-V to paste that object, and there it is. So here's an important note that I should mention regarding copying and pasting. You can copy and paste objects in this timeline, but you can also copy and paste keyframes in the keyframe timeline. You can control which one to focus on by simply moving your mouse over the timeline you want to work with. If my mouse is over here and I press Ctrl-V, it'll paste whatever keyframes I have copied. But if my mouse is over here and I press Ctrl-V, it'll paste whatever objects I have copied. So it's just good to keep that in mind. Okay, time to make this laser. So first I'm gonna go ahead and shift plus drag this new object below the helper, like this. I'm going to make this a normal object and call it the laser. Then I'll move it so that it appears just a few seconds after the helper does. So when I play it, obviously that doesn't look quite right. So I'm gonna alter a few things. So first off, I want to make the laser object have a faster transition when it appears. I can do that by clicking the laser and moving this keyframe closer to the start. That's better, but here's another thing. I also want the laser to have a smooth transition when it disappears. I don't really have to do it for the helper, because by the time I'm done with this, it'll be covered up by the laser when it disappears. But basically, after the laser has been here for a bit, I want it to shrink horizontally until you can't see it anymore. So I will add another keyframe here and set the transition to in sign, and then set the Y scale to 0. So let's see how that looks. Okay, one more thing. I'm going to speed everything in this laser up, but I also want this to grow to full size and stick around for a bit before it disappears. So all I have to do is to add another keyframe. Specifically, I want to copy this keyframe and paste it in between the middle and the last keyframes. So I will select this keyframe and Control-C, move my marker over here, and then Control-V. So that looks better, but there's one more thing I want to do. I want the helper to disappear as soon as the laser is fully grown. So all I have to do is add another keyframe in any of these timelines, as long as that keyframe doesn't actually change anything about the shape. I'll just add a keyframe in the rotation timeline, because I'm not rotating this object anyways. I just won't change the rotation here. Then I will move that keyframe over to the exact moment where the laser is at full size, like right here. So that is how you make a basic laser. But now I want to put a bunch of these lasers in the level, and I want them to appear in random positions. I will go over that next time.